Hello everyone,
Hi, Ritu.
welcome to the today's webinar. Ma'am, I'm audible. Hello ma'am.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I think there's a voice
Welcome
lag.
everyone.
There's a voice lag, but it's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay ma'am. Yeah, I Rituraj, founder and publisher of Burness Law Journal, and today we have Ms. Debolina Saha Narayanan ma'am. She is the founder of Internship Bank and senior associate at Dorsey and Whitney LLP, Hong Kong office. So before starting this interview, ma'am, please tell us something about your background and about Internship Bank.
Oh my God, I feel you're interviewing me. I thought I had come over here to help all of you with your interview questions. Okay, so before I start on the questions that you're requesting me, a very good afternoon to every one of you who've made time to join. And I hope that all of you are healthy, you're keeping safe. And I want this session to be as interactive as possible. So the topic is very, very interactive. It gives the scope of a lot of interaction. So if you yourself have faced any interviews or have any upcoming interviews, and you want to talk about any questions, or if you've had any prior experience, do raise your hand and shoot in that question in that chat box, and Ritu and myself will coordinate and try and get back to you. Now, coming to Ritu's first question about me is what is my background? Well, I'm an NUJS graduate, passed out long time ago, and my after my studies at NUJS, I went on to work with Amarchand Mangaldas, who picked me up from campus itself. Worked in Amarchand Mangaldas for a year, and then made a move to Ashurst in London. I dabbled in banking and finance at Ashurst. Came back to India, worked at L&L Partners, then made my way back to Allen & Overy in Hong Kong. And all the while I was practicing capital markets. So that's been my bread and butter. And after A&O, I had a short stint as an in-house counsel, as a senior in-house counsel at Cantor Fitzgerald. And now I'm at Dorsey and Whitney as a senior associate in their international capital markets, more on the debt side. So that's about me professionally. Apart from this, I'm also the founder of Internship Bank, which I founded in December 2019, mid-December 2019. And the idea of Internship Bank is to, provide a repository of internships via an online platform. And to connect young female interns with internship opportunities that are provided by senior women professionals. So it does a whole of other things, not just provides internship opportunities. I hope Ritu gives me some scope to speak about Internship Bank later, but that's about me in a nutshell. Ritu, does that answer your question, or do you have more questions for me before I help out with interview questions?
I have more questions, ma'am.
Okay. So anything else? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
What are the differences you felt between Indian law firm and foreign law firm? Like you worked in merchant and you worked in many law firms in America and Hong Kong.
That's right. So let me deal with this question you've asked from an interview perspective, because the topic of our today's session is how to deal with difficult interview questions and what are the pitfalls to avoid. So let's analyze your question as to what I found difference in terms of working for foreign law firms and Indian law firms from an interview perspective. Personally speaking, at least during the time that I was interviewing for jobs in India, I felt the interviews in India were more technical. I wouldn't say very technical, but they were more technically focused in terms of the knowledge of the candidate. Whereas once that I sat for jobs abroad, those interviews really focused on your personality as to whether you are able to be a good fit within the organization. What is your interpersonal skill? Do you sound confident? Are you the kind that the firm would love to, post you as the key person when it comes to a webinar, when it comes to giving a presentation? So your overall personality had to be really, really, really strong, even at a junior associate level. And the way international law firms, of course, technical knowledge is important in any kind of a given scenario, be it India or abroad. But the emphasis on technical knowledge, the way it was laid out is we can teach the candidate how to apply the law or teach the candidate where to find the law. So foreign law firm jobs were more about your personality and how you fitted in the organizations, about your soft skills, and technical skills more seemed like an additional point. Whereas for Indian law firms, at least the time that I was interviewing for, there was a lot of emphasis on knowledge and what technical skills you really brought onto the table. So yeah, that was the basic difference, Ritu, between interviews in foreign at the foreign front and Indian front. Yeah.
The next question. What are the questions interviewer can ask while hiring in a law firms?
Okay, I can go on this question for 7 days and 7 nights at a stretch. There are a host of questions, but maybe for the benefit of everyone, and I hope you have a pen and paper while I'm telling this out to you. The most common question that you will broadly face is tell us something about yourself, because more often than not, the person interviewing you would be a senior person who perhaps wouldn't even have had time to go through your CV or do any kind of research on you. So it's a way to getting you know better. And with that question, tell me something about yourself, you have your first chance to create an impression. Now, let me deal with it this way, Ritu. Let me ask the common questions that you might get asked in any interview, and then also try and give the kind of response that is expected out of you. I think that's helpful, not just telling you what questions will come, but I think it's also important to tell everyone on the session today as to what kind of responses is expected. So for the first question, if anyone asks you, tell me something about yourself, I think what's important is for you to have a very good understanding about the job requirements. So tell me something about yourself is a very, very wide question. You can talk about your hobbies, you can talk about your education background, you can talk about a lot of things. But what you should remain focused on in answering this question is to see what the job requirements are. So read the job advertisement and take out 4 or 5 points or qualities that the job advertisement requires, and then try and match those qualities while answering the question on tell me something about yourself. Your entire focus throughout the entire length and breadth of the interview should be to show your interviewer that you fit and match those job requirements much better, in a much better fashion than any other candidates who are currently sitting for that interview. So if the job requirement is, for example, we want someone who is eager, who's confident, who has organizational skills, you should make a list of those requirements and then tell something about yourself to highlight that you bring those qualities on the table. So if someone says we need someone with great organization skills, start off by saying, hey, my name is so and so, and I'm in so and so year of college. And I see from the job requirement that you need someone with great organization skills. And just to give you a little background about myself, I organized these many things while I was continuing my studies in college. Now, one thing you must remember when answering this question is that you shouldn't list out all your qualities or give away all your qualities in that one question and keep speaking and keep speaking and keep speaking. Make sure you highlight or take a step back, think about 4 or 5 different qualities that you bring on the table, which best match the job requirement. And your attempt should be to lay down those qualities, bring those qualities to the interviewer's forefront throughout the interview. So don't worry if you're not able to bring all the qualities in your response to that one question, tell me something about yourself. You will have different opportunities in the form of different questions throughout the interview to bring those qualities up. One thing you must remember is that when speaking in an interview, you should not be speaking more than 2 minutes at a stretch. It should be a dialogue between the interviewer and yourself. So do give the interviewer a chance. If you're facing a group of individuals, make eye contact with everyone. If there is a lady interviewing you, along with a few other gentlemen in the meeting, make sure you address the lady first, clearly and coherently, and then speak to the gentleman around. Your focus and your respect should be directed at everyone, irrespective of any rank or importance any of the person interviewing would hold. So one question is, tell me something about yourself. The next common question that you might get is, tell me what are your weaknesses? Now, let me tell you a secret. No one wants to hire a weak candidate. I wouldn't want to hire a weak candidate. So then the question is, ma'am, should I be honest? Yes, you should be absolutely honest. Then you're like, ma'am, you won't hire me if I'm honest. Then why are you telling me to be honest? Well, the point is you formulate your weaknesses in the form of strengths. And how do you do that? Right? All of you know yourself better than anyone else. So you have to take a step back. Say, for example, if someone tells me, Debolina, what is your weakness? I will say, I'm the kind of person who really takes my responsibility who really takes my responsibility very seriously. And therefore, I start worrying about the task that has been given to me way ahead, even though the deadline may be many days later. I start worrying about it many days ahead so that I'm able to raise the red flags in that particular task that's been given to me much earlier. Now, is that a weakness? It is a weakness because it's causing me worry and tension, and I might pass that worry and tension to my teammates with whom I'm working. But will an employer love someone who starts on the job early? Absolutely. So you see what I'm doing? I am revealing my weakness, but I'm giving it in the form of a strength, in the form of a product that the employer will like. Now, cardinal rule about one cardinal rule about interview is exchange positions. So if you were to interview someone, if you were to hire someone, what are the qualities that you would have looked for in that individual? So take a step back, and then after you've exchanged this role, it's very easy for you to figure out what your employer or what your prospective employer is expecting out of you. So if you would have liked someone responsible, make sure you demonstrate with all your achievements in your curriculum vitae as to how you can demonstrate you have been responsible throughout your law school days or if you want someone who is a very good-natured person, how do you demonstrate that? So when you exchange roles, I think the expectation becomes very clear as to what's expected out of you. So just to repeat myself, one common question is, and you'll definitely face this, tell me something about yourself. You don't tell everything and anything about yourself under the sun, but you tone down your response in accordance with the job requirements. Match it up. It's like a lock and key mechanism. Every key won't open every lock. Similarly, everything that you say has to be in tune so that it opens the lock of requirements that the employer has laid out in front of you. The second most common question that you'll face is, tell me something about your weaknesses. And remember, folks, when you're talking about your weaknesses, make sure you give it back in the form of the strength that the employer would like. Be absolutely honest, though. Honesty is very, very essential in your interviews, right? The third common question that people are often asked, is towards the end of the interview. They ask you, do you have any questions for us? Now, in that question, please never, ever, ever say that, no, I don't have any questions for you, because that shows that you are someone who's not really researched on the company. So that question you can turn to your benefit if you say, ma'am, throughout the interview, I have tried to demonstrate how I'm one of the most suitable candidates for this particular job, is there anything else? So the question, you are now turning it into your favor, and you're saying that, is there anything else that you would like to know from me? Or is there any way by which I can show you any quality which you want me to bring to the forefront, which will show you that I am a better and a more suitable candidate than all the others who applied for the job? So if someone says, do you have any questions? Your response ideally should be, yes, I do have questions. And my first question to you is, can I demonstrate to you in any other way, through any other qualities, as to whether as to how I could be a better candidate? So if anything you've not covered during the interviewer will tell you that, and then your task would be to match that quality requirement by showing any achievement that would match that particular criteria. So these are the three most common questions. I think throughout the interview, if we get questions, I can answer any other specific questions and how one should respond. But these are the most commonly asked questions that I'm sure most of you would get in an interview. Another thing that comes to my mind, Ritu, do let me know if there's a time restriction, because this is one of my favorite topics. I can go on speaking and speaking and speaking, right? So, yeah. So
no restriction, ma'am. You
no
can
restriction.
continue.
Okay. Okay. So the other thing, another common question that you will face is, why do you want to join us? Right? You have so many other companies. And remember, in this question, all of us love praise, right? We all like hearing good things about ourselves. So this is a question where you show the company how much you have researched. If you want something desperately, you would have researched on the persons who, sometimes they tell you who would be interviewing you. In that case, do research on the person. Today, with the availability of platforms like LinkedIn, you can easily search a person and you can easily come to know some basic information about the person. If there is anything common between that person and you, do try to bring that out in the interview. Say, for example, I know someone from an ex-alumni of NUJS is going to interview me for a job, right? Say I come to know through their LinkedIn profile. Try and bring it out in the conversation. It need not be in response to a specific question, but in the many questions that the interviewer will ask you, do try and bring out the fact that you know and you've done the research that that person is from the same university as yours, because it kind of will give you a better connection with the person. There's no question of partiality. I'm not saying that just because an alumni interviews me, there's a greater chance of me getting the job, but definitely there's a greater chance of bonding and there's a greater chance of relaxation in the interview scenario setting itself. So do research. If you know the person beforehand, I'm not saying you need to know the person personally, but do try and research on the person so that you can find out anything common between them and try and bring it out in the interview. Similarly, not just the people interviewing you, do try and dig out the most recent information about the company that you are going to be sitting for an interview with. So for example, you don't really need to, you need to throw the fact that you know something about them in different questions as a matter of a conversation. Don't wait for the question to come and then say, okay, only when this question comes, I'm going to rattle out what I know about this company. No, you should throw it as a matter of conversation. So say if someone asks, so what are your strengths? So say if we ask Ritu, what are your strengths? And then Ritu in response would say, oh, I have these skills. By the way, I also know that your company recently organized a marathon, and I also, I love participating in marathons. So you see how the connection is drawn. It need not be something even at the legal front. It would be great if you could bring out any legal or official achievement, but it's also great if you're able to connect at a more personal level. So it's very important for you to know what the organization does, what sectors the organization is involved in, and what prizes the organization has received over the years. So when you combine all of this, you want to be able to tell them the reason I want to work for you is because I want to work in a company that gives me exposure in many different avenues. And looking at your profile, which I just checked as recently, which I've been checking for some time now, and also checked just a few days ago, I see you are involved in these streams of activities, and my interest lies in those very sectors that you are involved in. I also see that you've won many prizes, many, you have found mention in many newspapers about these kind of activities that you do, and I'm interested in those kind of activities also. And because I feel our interest is very similar, I feel I'll be able to contribute in ways and means far above than the other candidates, because these are things I'm really passionate about. So you see, you're not only telling them, an interview shouldn't be a giveaway process. It shouldn't only be, oh, if I join this company, I will get this. If I do this, I will get this. It should be a quid pro quo. You should think how you will also be useful to the company, and you should bring that to the light. It should not only be, oh, your name will look good on my CV. Oh, your company's name will give me better opportunities later. No, don't say that, please, right? So the idea is to also show how if they were to hire you, because you're passionate about those areas of functioning, those areas are your hobbies, something that you've consistently pursued over the many years in college, they will stand to gain by investing in a candidate who brings that much of enthusiasm. I think that will really help you to stand apart from other candidates. So just to recapture what I've said, some common questions would be: tell us something about yourself. What are your weaknesses? Your strengths, you can always talk about your strengths. But remember, it is not just enough to tell your strengths. You remember, the person interviewing you has never met you before. So it's not just enough to say, oh, I'm a great lawyer, or I'm great at this. You need to demonstrate by saying, if you look at page so and so of my CV, you will see that I've had a consistent track record in achievements, both in academics as well as extracurricular. So I'm a candidate who can definitely multitask, who can definitely take additional responsibilities and deliver in a short period of time, So you, for whatever strengths you talk about, you need to be able to demonstrate it with actual activities that you have undertaken in your years of college. So there's a proof. No one will go by your words. I can say a long list of things about myself, but then people will ask for proof, and you give that proof by referring the interviewer to your curriculum vitae and telling them how in that CV you match up the criteria they are looking out for. So the other common question, as I said, is, do you have any questions for us? And why do you want to join us as opposed to some other company? Ritu, I think 5 questions good enough. And then we can answer any questions that students might have, so I don't know what questions they, yeah.
Sure, we have. Thanks, ma'am, for this answer.
Problem.
How one can apply for internship via internship bank?
Okay, so internship bank, I started in mid-December 2019 to provide for an online repository of internship opportunities that are extended by senior women professionals to upcoming female first generation professionals who come from colleges which do not have a great alumni network, or colleges who are lesser known in the industry, or for students who come from a humble background. The first and foremost criteria, and many of the men watching me may not like it, is the fact that you got to be a woman to avail of this opportunity. So with the resources I had in place, and okay, let me tell you why it is only for women, and then I'll go on to say how the application procedure is on internship bank. So it's for women because I've worked in London and I currently work in Hong Kong, jurisdictions where you would feel women are adequately represented in the corporate world. But you'll be surprised as to how many times I find myself alone or amongst a very few women in a presentation hall or in a meeting. So I realized, I don't know how bad it is in India because I've not worked in India for many years now, but I realized that the situation is this unbalanced or imbalanced abroad. I could imagine what the situation in India would be. So that gender disparity did play on my mind. Secondly, I do go to India to take regular classes among students, and I make it a point to teach in lesser known colleges. And what I realized was there were some brilliant students, brilliant minds out there, but the reason they lost out on opportunities was because their college didn't carry the brand value that many of the other colleges carried. So I wanted to combine these two, and therefore I founded Internship Bank in December 2019. So Internship Bank, the way you apply is, we actually have a YouTube video. So if you go to our LinkedIn page, you just have to do a quick search with the words Internship Bank, and there'll be a red logo that comes up. And you then have to click the follow button on our LinkedIn and Facebook pages. We are also on Instagram. And once you click on our LinkedIn page, you will actually have a YouTube video about our a small tutorial on how to use our website. So first and foremost, to apply, you have to go to our website, which is www.internshipbank.org, and go to the tab which talks about internships, find internships. And there are a list of internship opportunities. If I'm not mistaken, we have over 50 live opportunities right now. That does not mean only 50 students can be accommodated, because some internship opportunities are open to over 6 or 7 candidates. So do feel free to, they are all live opportunities, and they are on a rotational basis. So there is no strict start date or end date. Minimum commitment required from your end would be 4 weeks. And after you reviewed the list of advertised internships, there is an online form at the bottom of those advertised positions. You are requested to fill in that form. It does not take more than 10 minutes to fill in the form. Some people even manage to complete the form in 5 minutes. And once you complete that form, it's very self-explanatory and basic information that we ask from you. I won't go into the details. I receive an email. I go through to see that what internship you've applied for, you completely tick off the basic criteria. And then if you clear that, I request for your curriculum vitae, and then I do a short, friendly phone call, telephonic. I wouldn't call it an interview. It's more of a friendly call to understand you better, because the idea is I have your CV, but the more I get to know you better, I can put you in a better light in front of the person who is wanting to give you that internship opportunity. So throughout this process, you must remember, I'm your friend. It's in my interest that you do well and you raise the bar of Internship Bank. So then I connect you with the internship provider. And what's very unique about Internship Bank is that we just do not stop after we connect you to the prospective internship offerer. I will be there, or a team member from Internship Bank will be there with you throughout the process. So in case if you face any difficulties, whether technical or otherwise, while you are interning, you can reach out to us. We'll be there, and I'll be there to mentor you personally. So I'll prepare you for the interview in case the internship offerer wants to take another interview of yourself. I'll review your CV if you make it up to the first cut. I will teach you how to write your CV if I feel your CV does not match or does not look good or does not fit well or look professional. And, after your internship is over and you're not bored with me, I will continue to be in touch with you and mentor you for the next internship opportunities, or who knows, the next job in place. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, ma'am. So the next question I want to ask, how to prepare for interview, especially a group discussion?
Okay. So I think
how one can prepare for.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. I think the best way to prepare for, okay, let's start with a few things. So the best way to prepare for, do you have any question for me on a telephonic interview? If you don't, then I can deal with it in this particular question. Ritu, I can't hear you. You're on mute. Hello? Hello? Okay. While Ritu is connecting, let me talk a little about how you best prepare for interviews, right? Especially group interviews. I think the best way to prepare for an interview is if you know you're going to sit for an interview in the next 3 months or 2 months, especially a job interview. First and foremost, take it seriously. And what you should do is watch a lot of group discussions, a lot of interviews on television itself. What will happen during the process is you will pick up words, phrases, manner of talking, and all the soft skills that you would require to make a good impression about yourself at an interview. So first and foremost, just keep watching a lot of interviews on television. For group discussions also, you'll have all these chat sessions. It's so important to keep yourself abreast with what's currently happening, because more often than not, your group discussion will focus on very current issues or contemporary issues. So you at least need to have 4 or 5 points. Don't try to cram a lot, because I think what most of us do, or I did, especially when I was a student, was to try and list out as many points as possible. And in the process, I either mumbled or fumbled or didn't remember all the points that I had to say. So make sure for every current topic that you think you could be asked a question on, either in an interview or in a group discussion, make sure that you have at least 4 talking points on those topics, right? You wouldn't need more, simply because in an interview, as I said, you shouldn't be speaking for more than 2 minutes at a time. Similarly, in the group discussion, you don't want to be the candidate who's the only one speaking. Group discussion, what it really aims to know is whether you are a good team player or not. And a good team player does not mean that you take away all the praise. You should be seen as someone who's supportive, who gives other people a chance to talk, who fits in words or put words when the other person is mumbling. So the entire idea of group discussion is to see how you function as a team. Are you a good team player? So again, in a group discussion, please do not speak more than 2 minutes at a stretch. After you've made your point, I think to show that you are a supportive member of the team, you could say, this is what I think. I would love to hear what other people have to say. So you have to come forward. Not only do you have to shine brightly, but the idea of a group discussion is to also make sure others around you also shine brightly. And by giving that opportunity to someone else, you are showing the observer. Remember, when you're having a group discussion, someone from the company will sit at the side and watch you. So your idea is not only to shine brightly, to show that you have the knowledge, but to show that you are a person who supports others. Never interrupt anyone in a group discussion. Let the person have a say, and it's a quality that you will develop. The more shows you watch, the more discussions you yourself participate in. Please wait for that little pause before, when one finishes talking, before jumping in. You don't want to be seen as someone who hushes someone else and is stepping in to speak. A great way to practice group discussion is to be an active participant in your own class discussions. As law students, I would imagine most of you would have classes where you are discussing important news updates, important updates in the world in the class itself. So do try and think about it as a group discussion, as if someone's going to hire you. So try and portray yourself out there as a candidate who is there to support someone else. So the pointers would be, watch as many interviews and group discussions as you can, because unconsciously and subconsciously you'll be picking up words, phrases, and body language that will only help you get better and also confident. As far as knowledge is concerned, pick up 4 or 5 important points for each current topics. Do not speak for more than 2 minutes. You should be seen as not only a leader, so it's okay if you are not the first one to jump onto a call in a group discussion. It's absolutely fine. Don't freak out, even if you're the last person to join in. Always try and contribute a little to the conversation, as opposed to saying something very generic like, oh, whatever I want to say, Ritu has already covered it, or Pooja has already covered it, or Shubhankar has already covered it. Do try and add some amount of value. If you really don't know anything about the topic, like worst scenario, you don't know anything about the topic. In that case, it would be good if you prove yourself to be a good listener. What you should do in that case is, if you found certain points very relevant by certain participants, what you should do is try and remember the names of that participants, because that creates a good impression that you do care about others, and then try and associate one point that each of those participants said and weave it together as if you are concluding the group discussion. So idea being, you didn't know anything about the topic, but you are someone who's now kind of summarized what everyone had to say and brought the team together. And in the process, you also proved that you are a very good listener, and you took the time to respect, to understand other team members' views and remembered their names. So, but that should be used as a last resort. Do try and bring about certain, like, do try and contribute and make your contribution to the group discussion. There are other few tricks, I would say, that many people use while speaking. You would have noticed that many people say, "Oh, that's a good question that you've asked me. That's an excellent question," or something like that. So do try and pick up these connecting words, as I call it. The idea being that every connecting word gives you some time to think what you want to say, right? Because that gives you that extra 4, 5, 6 seconds to think as to how you're going to formulate your argument. Needless to say, be clear in your thought, be slow in your speaking. When you're slow, you sound more simple. You're also allowing yourself to get more time to think what you want to talk about, and you sound more confident. So please, even if you know the answer, don't go at a speed that no one will understand you. It is better the interviewer takes 2 points of what you want to say across the door, across that table, then you trying to give everything and the interviewer is not able to understand. So these things are as important: the speed with which you speak, the manner with which you speak, the confidence with which you speak, the eye contact that you make, the way you address the members of not just of your friends, who are there are so many of the students that I've seen who would jump onto a group discussion without actually wishing people a very good afternoon or wishing everyone all the best for that discussion. So imagine a group where everyone starts speaking on the topic all at once, and imagine another group where a team member steps in and says, "Hey, a very good afternoon to all of you, and I wish all of you the very best, and may we all succeed." See, the emphasis in a group discussion is always on the team. So may we all succeed, and I hope we all come out with great talking points in this group discussion. Come on, let's make it as interesting as possible. You yourself can now determine as to whether that group A, where everyone jumped to talk about the technicalities of the topic, and group B, where someone took the effort to not just be a leader, but also, combine everyone's thought, encourage everyone. You very well know who won that group discussion or who secured a better or made a better impression. So do keep these points in mind. As regards interview preparation, I mean, it's very important to know who is going to interview you, research on the person, as I said, research on the organization. Please dress professionally. It could be an Indian attire, it could be Western attire, doesn't matter. Dress, I'm not saying dress expensively, so don't worry if you don't have expensive branded clothes, no one's going to look at it. What matters is that you present yourself in a clean, professional style. For the women, no dangly earrings and heavy makeup. For men, please go clean shaven. We always appreciate clean shaven men because it kind of shows it's not about looks. Many people have come asking me that, "Ma'am," and it's a very sad question I get, that, "Ma'am, I don't look good, or, I'm more on the heavier side, especially for women. Do you think I can make it up in the corporate world?" Let me tell you, looks, and I repeat, looks have nothing to do with your success. Absolutely nothing. What really matters is your confidence, your ability to bind the team, your ability to motivate others, and your ability to do the job that your boss has asked more efficiently than anyone around. So give away with the fact that, oh, I don't look like who's the Indian hero or heroine you guys follow right now? Oh, I don't look like that person, so maybe I don't stand a chance as a corporate lawyer. No, nothing of that sort. So what really matters is you present yourself in a clean, professional manner. Because if you don't do that, then that's a problem because it shows an unorganized mind, and no one wants an unorganized mind in a new setup. Everyone wants someone who's sorted, who is clean, who is professional looking. So that definitely matters. Anticipate the questions that your employer would have asked if you were the employer. If you had that CV and you were trying to interview someone with that kind of a background, what are the questions you would have asked if you were the employer in that particular organization? So change your role. The minute you change the role, I think things become very easy. Would you have liked someone who only said, what are the things that candidate could derive from your organization? Or would you like a candidate who not only says what he can derive out of your organization, but also tells how he can contribute to your organization? So it always has to be a quid pro quo. So do keep these things in mind, and I'm sure all of you will come acing out of your interviews. Yeah.
Thanks, ma'am. So the next question I want to ask, what is corporate litigation?
Well, I don't think I'm the right person to ask that question, given that I myself don't have any litigation background. Give me 2 seconds. So I myself don't have much experience in that field. So I think I would refrain from answering that question because that's all right. Yeah.
Since they can ask, ma'am.
Sorry, I lost your voice. I couldn't hear.
If anybody have questions, they can raise their hand.
Okay.
If someone have any questions.
Yeah, guys, let's make this very interactive. So if you have questions, do feel free to shoot them, show your hands, and then we can always stop talking and answer your questions first.
We have questions on YouTube, so we will take it from there.
Sure. Give me the easy questions, Ritu.
Okay. Wait, coming. First, tell me, what living thoughts do you have for audience today?
Oh, leaving thoughts. They want me to leave right now itself.
No, no one is asking questions.
Okay, fine. No, I'll answer the leaving thoughts perhaps when we are towards the end. So do give me a heads up.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't want to take the question. Just remind me 10 minutes prior to the ending of the session, and I'll be more than happy to answer the question. Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody have, please ask.
Okay, guys, since none of you have any questions to ask, let me tell you something. It's very important to practice your interview, so do sit with the person. Sorry, could I ask everyone to put on their mute button? I can get a lot of, Ricky, do you want to put yourself on mute? Because I can get a lot of background noise. Yeah, that's better. So do a role play. I know it might sound silly, but it really helps because the role play could be of you in front of a video speaking. It could be in front of someone whose opinion you value. So do sit and talk it out because you want to know how you sound when you're talking. That's important. You want to be able to also, so whatever you studied, you want to be able to make it flow in a very lucid manner, in a very nice way, and that can really help. That can really come about only when you practice it with someone who who you trust. Don't sit with a very negative person who's always criticizing you. Sit with a more balanced person who's able to give you a true view, honest view, but at the same time not discourage you terribly. And you will only get better with time, let me tell you. So my first interview was horrible. Thankfully it was an internal interview, so it was all good. We were doing practice sessions, but by the time the actual job interview came, I'm guessing I did a good job because I did get my job with Amarchand from the campus itself. Yes. Shubhankar, do you have any question for me? No. No. Come on, guys. I thought you'll have a lot of questions, considering all of you at some point will be sitting for interviews. I would have imagined all of you to have many, many questions. Shubhankar, do you have any questions for me? He's gone on mute now. Okay. So how much time do we have, Ritu? Do we have... Ritu, I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry. 10 to 15 minutes we have, ma'am.
Okay, so then let me leave with my leaving thoughts. I never thought that was going to be a question.
One question came.
Yes.
One question came from... let me unmute her.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Wait. Shruti, please ask your questions.
Hello, ma'am. Can you
Hi,
please?
Shruti.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, can you please suggest something about CV making?
Absolutely. I think that's a very good question. I'm glad you brought it out. Before I go on to CV writing, let me also just clarify something about telephonic interviews. So you could have in-person interviews. You could also have, telephonic interviews. And I think given the lockdown right now, telephonic interviews are very, very common. So one advantage of telephonic interview is, you don't have the fear of being in front of an unknown person. So that's definitely advantageous to people who are a little more introvert than others. And the other advantage is, make the best of the telephonic interview. Because someone is not able to see you, if you're not confident about your answers, especially those that relate to that are of technical nature, do write down the answers or keep the books that you want to refer to in front of you with the bookmarks on. And you make sure you don't flip pages, because if you flip pages, someone else at the other side is able to hear you, right? And know that you don't know the answers off your head, but you have to refer to something. So the best way to go about a telephonic interview, and especially for technical questions, is just write down the answers on one sheet of paper and keep it spread out on a big table or a big platform, and while you're speaking to someone, you can move about and look at those points and make sure that you say those points when you are interviewing telephonically. So that's one big advantage of a telephonic interview, is that you can refer to it's like an open book examination, right? But always in a telephonic interview, remember that because the person cannot see you, it's very important for you to use your voice to do away with the fact that the person cannot see you. So do sound cheerful, have a good voice modulation, and when doing a telephonic interview, absolutely critical that you inform all the other members of your family that you're doing a telephonic interview, and you sit in a very silent zone, as I call it, when doing that interview. You don't want any kind of an interruption or abruption, because if it does, it doesn't really create a good impression about you, given that you were already told about the telephonic interview earlier. Now, coming to CV writing, the most common question I get is, ma'am, I have so many achievements. Do I really need to stick to 2 pages? Is it okay? Or I don't have many achievements. Can I just stick to a page of CV writing? See, when it comes to CV writing, the basic thing that you need to keep in your mind at all times is that the words you used in the CV are as if money you would want to spend in real life. Just the way in real life you wouldn't go about splurging money or spending or throwing your money everywhere. in a CV writing, make sure that every word you use, and by that I really mean every word you use adds value. If it doesn't add value, please do not add it. So don't say something like, I'm very trustworthy, or I am very hardworking. Hardworking is enough. Don't use very. You see what I'm trying to say? So first of all, cut down on useless words. Secondly, what is important is you should bear in mind the person reading your CV has never seen you, does not know you. He or she could come from a different college and most likely will. He or she has no idea about your grading system. So what is important is you keep that information in mind. So don't just say, I'm in fourth year. Fourth year of what? Is it a 5-year course? Is it a 6-year course? Is it a 7-year course? So the idea being that you give a clear idea. So for example, when you say you are ranked 11th in class, don't just say rank 11. It doesn't tell me much, because if you are a college where there are just 20 students in your class, your rank 11 really does not reflect very well on you. Whereas if you are ranked 11th in a class of 120 students, I would be super impressed with you. So it's in your interest that you give as much of background information about yourself as you do about other things, other achievements of yourself. So instead of just writing rank 11, write rank 11 amongst 120 students. Instead of just saying, oh, I came third in a competition, it's okay to write third in a competition amongst how many students or how many teams. You see, so by giving that extra little information, you're bringing out a totally different aspect of yourself. And if you hadn't done that, the interviewer would not have got that knowledge. Don't assume the interviewer knows about your CGPA. So don't write my CGPA currently is 4.2. 4.2 out of what? You see, because NUJS has a different grading system. Other colleges have a different grading system. I, coming from NUJS, would only know NUJS's grading system. So do give a background as to what, do give a little background, and do keep in mind that the person reading your CV will know nothing about you most likely. The other important thing which I see students often missing out is the fact that they do not write about their internal achievements. They are so focused, they come and tell me, ma'am, I've never participated in a moot court. I'm like, okay, but didn't you even compete in the internal rounds? They're like, yes, ma'am, I did compete, but I didn't make it to the external round. If you have not made it to the external round but have participated in the internal round, do make a mention that I participated, that internal achievements, participated in so and so competition amongst so and so students. So don't leave out your internal achievements if you do not have many external achievements to boast about. Similarly, if you have a lot of achievements, like lots of them, and you really don't have space to fit in all of it, leave a little bit of suspense. Just write and similar activities. So you list out all your moot courts, your extracurriculars, use a consistent form in laying out your achievements. And once you've done that, you can write and similar activities. When you write similar activities, make sure those activities happened at least 4, 5, or 3 years ago instead of the most recent one. So as a rule, always include your brightest and your most recent achievements in the CV. Second most, another common question that I often get is, ma'am, is a photograph required on the CV? For me personally, I don't care what you look like. Your photograph will not add any value to the CV if I were interviewing you or reviewing you. And I can tell you this is the case with many others. But in case, if you decide to put a photo of yourself on the CV, make sure it's a professional headshot and it's not a Facebook profile photo that is going up on your CV. Because if it does, it will put off interviewers like myself, because I want to see some level of maturity and seriousness in the candidate. So if I see a candidate putting up their Facebook profile photo as their professional CV photo, I won't be impressed. In fact, that will put me off. So if you put a photo, make sure it's a headshot. It's very professional, no pouted lips, no heavy makeup. So do make sure of that. Does that answer your question on CV writing? Anything else?
The questions from our from few members. Let me. One Sukanya Banerjee asked, "Could you please give some tips on how to convert an internship into a PPO?"
So Kanya, good question. But again, my answer to that would be reverse roles. If you had an intern, what would you have liked the intern to do? Like, so if someone asked me that question, Debolina, if you had an intern, how would you distinguish between a good intern and a not so good intern, right? So for me, a good intern would be someone who I would want to extend a PPO to would be who is able to follow my instructions clearly, to whom I do not have to repeat my instructions. So maybe I gave one instruction in doing transaction A with that particular intern. But if that instruction is valid for doing another transaction, another separate transaction, and the intern goes and imbibes and embodies that instruction, even without my expressly asking it, it shows attentiveness, it shows proactiveness, and it shows eagerness. So definitely that intern scores some goodie points. And when it comes to interns, I do not expect the interns to be Palkiwala or Venu Gopal. I don't expect them. The idea is not for the interns to have all the technical knowledge that a lawyer of experience is expected to have. The idea is that you are able to follow simple instructions. I don't have to repeat instructions to you. You're eager, proactive, you're willing to help, and you're willing to learn. You are willing to learn new things. So you're punctual, you are tidily dressed, so all of these things put together creates that impression that would perhaps lead to a PPO. Very simple. Always do the role reversal. Whenever you have a question on why, just put yourself in your boss's shoes. I would love an intern who does all my work so that I can go and play out golf. So anyone, imagine if you had someone working for you, if that person did most of your work and gave you that free time and space, and you became dependent on that person. So the idea for a good intern is to make sure that the boss becomes dependent on that person. The boss can rely on that intern. And when you are able to inculcate this pattern, I can assure you that a PPO is on its way. Yeah. So become indispensable to your boss. Make sure that your boss cannot think of doing a transaction without you, can totally rely on you. So I think these are the qualities that would turn an internship offer into a PPO. Yes. Okay, I am getting a question.
Next question from Arihanta.
Sorry, I want to take this question from Samprita, who's asking how long should she wait before the next job application. See, it will all vary on her. It will all vary on what job you've applied for. The best person to answer this would be the job center, or would be the organization you've actually applied for. There is no harm, when the interviewer in the question and answer session asks you as to, do you have any questions for me? You can always say, what would be the next steps? How soon can I expect to hear from you? So these are questions that are totally acceptable, but have in mind that the organization is a busy organization. So don't be someone who's sending out an email every week requesting for an update on your application. People are busy. Please appreciate that, especially given the circumstances we are now. Maybe it's good to follow up once in every 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks, unless you've been requested specifically to follow up earlier. So short answer being, get in touch with the organization and ask. If you don't get a response, do not start chasing them. But it's totally okay if you follow up with them once every 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I think that works. Yes. You're on mute, Ritu.
Srinath Tiwari, please ask your question.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi, ma'am. Ma'am, so my question is that a lot of firms, they ask about the latest commercial awareness that we have. So, ma'am, could you please tell us, like, what exactly do they expect us to know about, like, such questions?
So when we say commercial awareness, what we really want to see is your interdisciplinary knowledge. It's not just about law. It is about the other industry information. And I'll get to that, I'll get to that in detail as to what I mean. The other thing we want to see is what you learn in college is theory, and that's what most of us learn, right? But what is important at the job front when you go into the job arena is how you apply that law. So when someone asks you that question, what they are really trying to see is whether Srinath is someone who reads up, not just on law, but reads up on industry sectors. Do you have any other knowledge about the types of industries that are happening? So some say commercial, textile, you name the different industries. So it's always nice to have that kind of, and that will only come once you are regular in reading newspapers. So read newspapers, read the business sections of the newspapers to get that kind of, read the editorial pages to get that holistic knowledge where people are discussing many things and are bringing it together. And if you like something, highlight it and keep it, cut it out and keep it, and try and use those points when talking to people. So that's something by which you increase your manner and your way of talking, right? And as well as your knowledge on different subject areas. So that's one way of going about it. Listen to the news, especially business news, I would say. So that is how you tell the person who's interviewing you that you are someone who's not just studied law, but you've kept abreast with all the with all the commercial news that's happening around. And you then have to show them how, with the subjects you've studied in law school, you are able to bring or make some contribution to the commercial issues that are currently being discussed. So you need to have a viewpoint of your own. Even if that's not your own viewpoint, you need to develop it after having read through, say, articles or heard discussions on it. Does that answer your question, Srinath?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your precious time.
No problem, no problem. Anything else? Should I come to my leaving remarks? Sorry.
Rehanta,
Good
please ask your
afternoon, ma'am.
question.
Yes. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon.
Ma'am, during a personal interview, there are certain questions to which we have no answer or we don't
Like
know the
what?
answer.
Like
Ma'am,
what?
related to our academics at times, or the general awareness questions, or things which we haven't heard of or we're not updated with it. So,
Correct,
ma'am, like
correct.
if we are not able to answer that question, so how shall we reply to
That's a very, very good question. Very good question. So in case, it's absolutely natural. Even I don't know anything, everything. So it is okay for all of us to say we don't know something. Be upfront about it, that ma'am, I do not know about this specific thing. But if you can draw an analogy to a very similar thing. So say if someone asks you about, say about Darjeeling, okay? And you know nothing about Darjeeling, but you know Darjeeling is a hill station. And if you visited another hill station, you can draw an analogy saying that I do not know something about Darjeeling, but, I have been to other hill stations. So that's one way of answering the question. The other one is where you even don't know, say, that Darjeeling is a hill station, right? You don't even know that. So in that situation, what do you do? In that situation, the best response is to say, and it's okay to say that my apologies, I do not have much knowledge about this. However, if you give me your email address, I promise to get back to you. I promise to, after this interview, to go and research on it and get back to you with a response to your question before close of business today or before close of business tomorrow. What it shows two things. One is that you're not afraid to not know. And that's a good thing, because the second thing, it shows that you are willing to learn and go that extra mile. It's so easy to say, I don't know. And most of the candidates, the ones who are not watching this YouTube channel today, will probably say that, I don't know, right? They will just stop there. But what you are saying is, I don't know, but if you give me your email address, I will go back, research on this, and come to you with a response at the email address you've given me. So it shows someone who's willing to go that extra mile and definitely creates a positive image. Does that answer your question, Arianta?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Welcome, welcome. Anything else?
One question from YouTube, ma'am. Let me say one question. See, Prashad Malang, what should a law student know before entering into a corporate legal world? What are the things he should be good at? The question from Sri Prasad Malang.
Okay. So, what are the things the person should know even before stepping into? Sorry, can you paraphrase that again? What should the person? What qualities the person should have before joining law school? Is that the question? Or corporate world?
Into corporate legal world. Corporate world, ma'am.
Okay. So, I mean, see, there is no specific qualities that are only specific to the corporate world. Any person who wants to be good at a job needs to keep in mind the things that I've repeated many times in the interview. You need to be diligent, you need to be eager, you need to be proactive, you need to be someone who's commercially aware of what things are happening. You need to be someone, it's okay to not know the law. Okay, if you know the law, excellent. But if you don't know, it is okay. But what is not okay is if you do not know where to find the law. So it's very important that whoever steps into whether litigation, into the corporate field, or whatever field you choose, it is not okay for you to not know where to find the law. So make sure that you are able to break bigger issues that you'll face at your workplace of technical nature, into smaller issues and find a solution to that. So all of these things, application, the way you carry yourself, the way you talk, be confident, support others. Everyone likes someone who is of a good nature. Sometimes if you're intelligent, but if you're a terrible person, I can tell you, you will not be very successful in your life, or maybe you'll require much more effort than someone who's actually of a good and a nice nature. Everyone likes being associated with people who are nice, who are supportive of them. So be that person, and trust me, people will try and help you out too. So I would say eagerness to learn, be open to new challenges, never be afraid of failures. There's a long list, Ritu, I can go on. So all of these things will help you if you are to, when you want to step into the professional world. Yeah.
Thanks, ma'am, for answering all the questions. So last, please say what living thoughts do you have for our
Sorry,
audience
Ritu.
today?
Leaving
Yeah,
thoughts, is that what you're saying?
yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how many of you followed this session of ours today, but if you really have even taken away 4 points out of it, have learned even 4 new things, I think all of you would do really extremely well. For all the females on this platform, I really request you, in your own interest, to come and visit our website at www.internshipbank.org. Click the follow button on our LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram pages, because that way you will be immediately notified of new internship opportunities when we bring about. The platform is completely free to use. We do not charge you even a penny. We do not even charge people for whom we are providing interns. So it's absolutely free, and it was brought about to help females coming from humble backgrounds, lesser known colleges, first generation professionals. It was brought to help all of you out. So do absolutely make the best of use of it. And if you have any questions, always reach out to any of the members of Internship Bank. I have an excellent team of 3 volunteers currently, main volunteers, I would say, Shubhankar, Mansi, and Alice. They're doing a wonderful job. So do find them on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, do shoot it across to them as well as to myself. And thank you. I hope you found this session useful in some ways. And I've tried to put things as simply as possible. Yeah. And good luck for all your future interviews.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving
No
your.
problem. No problem. Always happy to help. Yeah. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Alice. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.